All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast interview where every single week I interview top real estate professionals out there dominating their space. And today, guys, we've got another amazing, epic guest on. This is actually round number two. And what I love about our guest today is she's really done it all. Been top producing individual agent, built a top producing team. She ran one of the top mega teams in the whole entire US. Now she's got a nationwide real estate organization in 29 states, over 320 agents doing thousands of transactions. She's also a coach. She's coached hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of agents all over. So really stoked and honored to have Cari Briner back on the podcast. Welcome back.
Hey, I'm super excited. It's fun when we get to do this a second time. Thanks for having me, and it's been awesome to reconnect with you and see what you're doing as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. And okay, so let's jump into,
Yeah.
I mean, you're a coach. Like you're working with all these agents. Plus, I mean, in your organization, you have, I don't know,
It's
320
now
is probably an old.
342. Yeah.
I was gonna say 320 is probably a low number. It's what old number I had,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of, I mean, I don't know this, you probably know the stats better than I do, but it's something like 70% of realtors didn't close a single transaction last year. So I kind of want to start there. What are you advising people to do right now to
Mhm.
change it up? Because the just things are different, economy's different, things are different. We got to
Yeah.
operate in a different way. Like, what do you, if anybody's listening to this, that the production's down, they're struggling, like, what is
Mhm.
it that they need to do to start turning things around?
Yeah. Um, so it's interesting that that is the statistic, and it definitely is. And when I look at my organization around the country, I'm grateful, and I'm blessed for a whole bunch of reasons that we'll talk about later. But we're kind of bucking that system, and we are above average in that. And one of the things I think that really makes a difference is keeping your mindset in the right place, because a lot of people don't know it, but they hear these statistics, and we've been hearing this, and we've been, all just like in the media of the world, the media of real estate is not very different. It's like, let's talk about what's not going right. Let's talk about all the challenges and the problems. And unfortunately, when we surround ourselves with those conversations, or we think that is the reality, we kind of fall into that, and it gives us permission to maybe do a little bit less, or to accept that we're not selling homes like we used to. And it's just the same analogy, Josh, that I used to tell people all the time, is like the people that are like, oh, well, it's the holidays, and so I'm not busy. The truth of the matter is there's a lot of people that are busy around the holidays. The reason the people that aren't busy around the holidays is because they subscribe to the idea that there's seasonality and that they're not going to be busy. So they just kind of don't work. And then they say, well, I'm not busy because of the holidays. And it gives them permission to not be busy. And I'm not saying that the market isn't changing and difficult. That's not what I'm saying at all. I am saying that I do believe that a lot of it is in our mind and the belief system that we have of what we can achieve right now, because we immediately believe it's harder, and it's okay if we're not doing transactions like we used to. And I think that that gives people a great opportunity to go out there and actually crush it, because there is a lot of people that are sitting by the sidelines. And so step into it and take your fair share, because people are still making a move. But that does require you to do something different. And so you have to have that mindset that you can get out there and find the people, and that you don't have to be a statistic, and that you can still sell real estate. But then you also have to be flexible enough to realize that the way you were doing it before might not get it done.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. It's that victimhood mindset that we got to be very careful because we can all fall subject to that. It's
Yes.
very easy to do so, right? But that's okay. We're going to blame outside circumstances,
Mhm.
give up our power, blame that for our production being down, which we give up our power, give up our control. And same thing, I look at this of, okay, yeah, maybe production or maybe transaction volume in my market's down 45%. But if I
Yeah.
only have, if 70% of realtors aren't closing a single transaction,
Yes.
the percentage of realtors checked out of the game is
Yeah.
substantially greater than the lower transaction volume. So I think this is probably one of the best opportunities we've ever seen to really go out there and get market share.
Right. That's right. And you have to be willing to have some of these conversations. I always tell people, like, be the one that brings the conversation up. What is the consumer thinking? What are their objections? What are they subscribing to that they're becoming a victim in their mindset too, and they don't even realize it, because they're listening to news saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't buy a house." Like, what can we do to go out there and be, yes, we have to talk about the facts, and some of those things are true for some people, but we also have the ability to know a lot of things that the consumer doesn't know. And if we educate ourselves, and we can become creative, or we can find opportunities, or we're seeking new options for people, we can be that voice of like hope and opportunity for people, just as much as we can kind of subscribe to the same thing, like, oh yeah, I mean, buyers can't buy out there because geez, this is what's going on, and so um it's a choice. Mindset and what we focus on is a choice. It does expand. It is a true story. And I find that the people who kind of subscribe to this kind of negative mindset in general about the industry kind of feed into that naturally to their consumer. And then they wonder why those buyers and sellers they have are sitting on the fence. I think there's a direct correlation there. Again, that does not mean that some of these things are truths. That's not what I'm saying. However, we either come at it like I'm someone that can find a solution. If there is one, I'll find it for you. If there isn't one, then maybe you do have to wait. But you can trust me that if there is an opportunity for you, we'll find it. Or you can be that person that kind of just goes along with what they think too. And yeah, they're going to follow your lead because they're looking to you to be the expert. Therefore, they're going to stand on the sidelines if they don't get that confidence from you. So all of this that we're talking about comes to a decision in our mind first, that then we have to execute on being really, really educated. How many agents out there know how to do contract for deeds and, other creative financing options? I had to do that many, many years ago when I got my real estate license. And, basically since then until now, nobody really had to talk about it because interest rates were so low and the market was so easy. But my point is like, we're getting back to doing a lot of these things again. And it's a great opportunity for some sellers and it makes it possible for home ownership for some buyers. But if you're an agent out there right now that has no idea what I'm talking about, this is just an example of you not being open to changing the way you do business, what you learn, and how you can come up with solutions for your clients. And if you did that, you might actually find more opportunities.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just say somebody's like, okay, I'm going to give up the victim mindset. I'm going to take my fate back into my own hands. But the reality is okay, 2012 to 2022, longest bull market in recorded history, longest real estate expansion, longest economic expansion. Like you could kind of wing it, kind of be consistent, kind of show up and still
Yeah,
make six plus figures.
that's
And,
right.
so then from there, like once they take control of that, they're like, okay, I'm going to do what it takes. Like, what are you finding different, as far as like strategy, like, like
Mhm.
getting things dialed in from there
Yeah.
then?
Yeah. So I think a couple of things happen. I think that real estate agents in those years that you were just talking about, we could work part time and make a good living. And if most real estate agents were serious with themselves, they're not working 40 hours a week. Unless they have a ton of clients, and then they might be because they're out showing and going on appointments. But I mean, generally speaking, when I'm talking to realtors and I'm like, tell me your schedule, these are not 8 hour days. And it's not 5 days a week. It might be 3 or 4 days a week. It might be 4 hours a day. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm working all the time. I mean, to be honest with you, you should probably be working 10 hours a day. And I know people don't like to hear that. The good news is you can be flexible. You do not have to work them consecutively from 8 to 6. You don't have to put them all in 5 days. You can put them in 7. You can choose your schedule around your family and what's important to you. But if you're serious about this, the reason I say that is because your day should consist of a lot of different things, including learning, so that you can be the expert of choice for people. And I think that's one of the things that agents do in general. I'm generalizing, but they probably not don't do very well, is staying so hyper informed on their local markets, on their neighborhoods, on the movement in their market, on what's going on, and previewing properties. So when they show up, I mean, they are so educated. They know everything about their market, number one. And number two, who are the people that can come up with different financing options? I have more people using private financing than ever before. Who do I need to know to learn about opportunities for my clients if this isn't what's going to work for them today? Do I understand some of the other ways people can purchase homes? Am I spending time educating myself so I am truly a well-rounded expert in this field? I don't know how to just go put a sign up in the yard and to go write a contract and negotiate it. I know a lot more than that. And I think that's the first thing, because number one, you're going to come out way, way more confident than the majority of your competitors, which is going to get you more business, but you're also going to see opportunities that you weren't able to see before. The more you know, the more you can see things. If you know nothing about something, you don't see an opportunity that could pertain to that if it's hitting you in the head, right? And so I think that we need to have that knowledge in order to see those opportunities, to make those connections. And I think we have to treat this like a real job if we're going to be serious about it. And I mean, you have a calendar, when you're going on appointments, you're tracking your numbers, using something like Sisu or some other, like you actually have to treat this like a business. And I feel like that's the good news about the market we're going into, is that if agents really embrace this, they're going to be a much, much better business owner, not just a real estate salesperson that works 20 hours a week that makes $100,000 a year. And I love this industry. I'm not disparaging it. I just think that different markets allow us to fall into that. I've been in those markets just as much as I've been in the hard markets. And guess what? The good news is we're going to go through cycles, but this market has a great opportunity for us to learn and to be better. And that's going to help us all moving forward, not only just in this time.
Okay, so you mentioned, and I love that you brought up that like local market expertise because I talk to so many that are like, I don't know, spend all this time listening to what Jerome Powell at the Federal Reserve is saying, and I'm like, look, guys,
Yes,
like, what's happening in my market in Phoenix, Arizona is way different than where you're at in Idaho.
that's
Like,
right.
I got a good buddy of mine that's in Alabama that during the Great Financial Crisis, like, their market was barely even impacted, where my market
You
dropped
go.
like 80%, right?
Correct.
So I
Yeah.
think too many people spend too much time freaking out about what's going on nationally,
Mhm.
but a question I always get, because I tell people all the time too, like, you got to become a local market expert. Then the question is, well, how do I do that?
Yeah. I think the first thing is every single day, and it's a very simple thing, but it becomes a regimented daily, not weekly, daily thing that you should do, as you should look at the hot sheet coming from your MLS if your MLS has a hot sheet. Most of them do. If they don't, set yourself up on a custom search that sends you an email every day. So that's how you bypass if your MLS does not have a hot sheet. Back in the day, we didn't have a hot sheet because it was probably too long ago. So I would set myself up a custom search in the areas that I wanted to be the expert. That didn't necessarily mean I was an expert in the entire Twin Cities of the metro area. That meant I was an expert in certain suburbs. I would set up custom searches for those suburbs and I would know exactly what happened from day to day to day. What properties are moving, how quickly are they moving, what neighborhoods are moving faster, what price ranges. I could see patterns emerge unlike anybody else because I looked at it daily. The daily was the key. A lot of people will be like, oh, I look at that like once a week or once a month. That gives you no patterns. If you look at it daily, it gives you patterns. You can also, if you have showing time set up in your market, some do and some don't, you can actually see different statistics in showing time that show you different price ranges and what's actually happening in showings. Or if you can't see those particular reports, because I've heard some people don't have the same access, you should just be going in there and pretending like you're going to set a showing in different properties that you want to be knowing about, and it will show you how many showing spots are available. So you're going to say like, wow, there's a couple of listings here that had a lot of showings these next few days. There's some that have absolutely none. My point is that if we actually really want to know what's going on in a market and what is happening in your local market, I mean, we can see massive differences between just neighborhoods in our area,
Yeah.
to the point where if I went on a listing presentation and I just said to this person, oh, your home's going to be 600,000. And I just looked at an average report from my MLS and I said days on market is 30. I could be just incredibly misspeaking because there are some neighborhoods that they will get multiple offers at that price range. And there are other neighborhoods that could take 120 days to sell. And we have to know those things. I believe we have to know those things. And if we come out talking about that in our appointments to buyers and sellers alike, and your competitors aren't, they are going to work with you because you're the expert. Not only should you be talking to your clients and prospects about this, but what can you do with this information that you know? And how can you be sending that information out in newsletters, on your social media, in videos? There's so much content we can do. And it's like people get so worked up about, I don't know about the content. And it's like, become the expert and you'll have all the content that you need
Yeah.
to talk about. This is the stuff people actually want to hear about. And you know
Yeah.
it, right? So I think that's the number one thing that everybody has access to and can do. I actually still believe in previewing properties if you don't have enough showings. If you're a strong listing agent, you don't do a lot of buyers, you have to preview property because what else are you going to do? I don't believe that we should rely on just the photos and the descriptions, particularly the photos anymore, because sometimes they are just not very representative of the property. If you can't and don't want to go in the property, just again, knowing the neighborhood, the vicinity, drive around. Like your whole job is to know your area, then you should literally know your area. Drive around and see the neighborhoods and know the differences and talk about those things because you're going to look and go, gosh, I can't believe, this property seems like it's really low price and it hasn't sold. And then you drive by and you go, oh, it's on the railroad tracks. Okay, that's right. Use Google Earth. Like I know things seem very simple, but when I talk to realtors, probably 1% of them actually do this on a regular
Yeah.
basis.
Yep. I love that. So then, okay. So earlier you talked about treating your business as a business. Like we hear
Mhm.
that all the time. You talked about some things of, having a schedule, tracking,
Yep.
but like when we say that, because a lot of people are like, okay, I get that, but like, what does that really mean?
Yeah. So everybody's going to be different in this. I actually believe that there isn't a one size fits all. I know some coaches are like, everybody should use a system and everybody can benefit from the same. And I'm sure that's true. I also know after all of my years of coaching people that they just won't do certain things. And so if you buy a system and say you're going to use it, but never use it, it's still not beneficial to you. Right. So from a coaching perspective, I really tap into a little bit more about what is going to be fairly natural or easy for them to track. And some will track less and some will track more. Some love to know more. The more they know, the more motivated they are. And some get very overwhelmed and then it's actually not going to do anything for them. So the bottom line is, though, that you should track things. I mean, you should track something because otherwise you're really just flying out there like, letting the wind pull you in every different direction. And you have no guidance on where you should then put efforts or spend more time, or you really know nothing, and so you can't make a plan with nothing, and that's very uncomfortable. Can't tell you how many, and I know you've probably experienced this, how many agents, top producers, that I would meet in, at the end of the year, 1st of January, to do a coaching session, and they're terrified because they have no idea how they accomplished what they did the last year, and they don't know how they're going to replicate it. So they start every year literally feeling like they're starting over from scratch, not knowing what to do. It's not a very pleasant feeling. And quite frankly, I think it's self-sabotaging because now you're putting yourself in a mindset at the beginning of the year of scarcity and fear that is going to impact your business. If you could move into the new year knowing things that gave you confidence, you would execute in a very different way and you'd probably have a better year. It's also why you see a lot of top producers, I think, stay very steady in their production over time because how can you grow it if you don't even know what you did last year? Naturally, you're going to have kind of a baseline of what your natural success is going to be, and you're just going to keep repeating that. And that's cool, but that's not comfortable, and it's not going to help you grow, right? And scale if you want to, and even just be in a peaceful mindset while you do it, which there's a lot of value there. So we have systems that we use, obviously within our company, called, one is Sisu, which I think is a phenomenal tracking system. I've tracked things, people, just simply in a spreadsheet. You can do a lot of tracking just with your CRM if you use it correctly. So if somebody's using a CRM and they're using their sources and they're actually using their closing dates and anniversary dates and the right tags, you can pull reports, or you can pretty much pull what you need to. But the bottom line is you've got to have data so that you can work with it and then know how to go forward and do more of the same.
Yeah, and I know my agents always get sick of me beating tracking to death, but I always tell them like, hey, the number one way that I know if you're committed to your business or if you're not is
Yeah.
if you're tracking your data, because
Yeah.
it's the only way to create predictability. But then from there, it's the only way to know areas of improvement.
That's
So I
right.
always do a comparison of like, okay, if you're not tracking your data, it's like going to your doctor saying, hey, I'm sick, I want you to fix me, but you're not allowed to run any tests.
Yes.
They're like, hey, here's 50 pills. Hopefully one works, but if it does, we're not gonna, which one worked?
We don't know. Just
Yeah.
keep taking the 50.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about lead gen strategy. And I probably should have said this in the intro, but what I love about talking with you and interviewing you is I don't know anybody that's probably coached more one-on-one agents and team leaders in this industry than you. Like you've coached, okay, like I've coached a ton, but it's been more group. It's like you've had like so
Lots of
much
one-on-one.
like more one-on-one experience than anybody I've met.
Mhm.
So then, because everybody's, well, what's the best lead gen strategy? What's now, are you seeing though, with this
Yeah.
change in the market of different things that are working better? Like somebody comes in and says, hey, what should I do for lead gen?
Yeah. I kind of feel like two things are working real well. I'm going to talk about two parts. One is selling real estate lead generation. And I think that we need to remember that we can use our real estate license to make money, and it doesn't always have to be in our local markets. And I think that is something people need to hear. And I've been helping a lot of my agents make a lot more money in referral business than they ever have before. Because what you said earlier, Josh, is Arizona is very different than North Idaho right now. It's interesting, even North Idaho and we go across the border 30 minutes away, totally different markets. Like people can go across the border and we're getting multiple offers and things are sitting in the market a little bit longer here. So, market to market is very, very different, right? And there's still migration patterns happening. It's not like it was during COVID, but it's still happening in a I think, a pretty fast pace. So if we understand that and we can actually look at other real estate agents as a lead generation strategy, we can make a lot of money. And here's the reality. Most of us have contacts everywhere. We just focus on our contacts in our local market because we just think about selling real estate where we live. But the reality is that we have people that know us, like us, and trust us all over the country, potentially all over the world. And we don't tap into them. And I believe that because our world is very small, it's getting smaller because of technology. I'm in a company, and so are you now, that, I mean, it is small. Our real estate world is small. I can connect with somebody across the world in the matter of 5 minutes. Why am I not tapping into this? Because in other markets outside of the US, real estate's really booming. Things are happening. A lot of international buyers are buying here in the US. People in the US are considering, many more now than before, buying in other countries. Like, there is so much opportunity to tap into. And so that's just a sidebar. I'll go to what do you need to do in your day-to-day, sell houses lead gen. But I do think people need to think about that a little bit differently. Put yourself in a position to be in an infrastructure where you can tap into all your contacts. You can help people no matter where they're moving to, because that is an opportunity that a lot of people don't take. And I think you can make a lot of money there. But in your local market, I've seen a couple things work really well. One is people going super hyper focused on the people that they know, like back to the basics. Like when I didn't have social media, when I first started in real estate, like pretend like you don't have social media and you have to go build relationships in person with everyone, because you literally aren't going to talk to anybody if you don't. Like that hyper focused on relationship building, events, getting involved in their community, really working side by side with other business owners, pop buys. Like I'm talking about I used to do pop buys all the time before we called them pop buys. I don't really call them, but we just go to our clients' houses and pop in and say, hey, what's up? And bring them a gift. Like this is what we had to do because we didn't have social media to keep in touch. Like this is how you keep in touch, or you send a handwritten note. But hey, I was in the area showing a house and I thought I would just stop by and see you. I thought of you guys. How's the family? Oh, and I brought you a little gift because I knew I was going to be here. And people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Half the time I was not going to be in the neighborhood. I was going to be in the neighborhood to see them. But I said I was showing houses or I was listing a house or whatever. I'm a busy real estate agent, right? And it's not that I wasn't telling the truth. I just was like, hey, I didn't want to make them feel weird. Like I'm stalking you and just coming to your house. And, so it worked. I mean, I get a referral almost every time I did that. And, people got away from that because we can be connected to people on social media, but we're connected to people differently on social media. And I'm going to span like totally opposite side of that in a minute. But if you are having a hard time being that connector of social media, being consistent with your social media to a point that your phone rings or you get DMs, then I think you have to go the complete opposite. That is my humble opinion. Like go 40 hours a week. Who are you pouring into? Who are you checking in with? What are you seeing on social media that you can take offline and you can go do in person to build that relationship? How are you connecting people, like other business owners, with people How are you making people's lives better? And honestly, it feels really good to do it, and you can make a lot of money. Right? It is a win-win strategy because you're helping other people and you can feel really good about what you're doing, but it's helping you put food on your table for your family as well. It also, quite frankly, I think is what will bring longevity to real estate agents. In a lot of ways. So I think really, really hyper interaction with sphere, past clients, people in the community, getting involved in community, business owners, that is very successful right now. In my experience. Second thing is completely opposite spectrum. And so I'm hoping I'm talking to people that maybe are different here. And that is like 6-7 videos a day on social media. I mean, it works, but it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a tremendous amount of consistency. And if you get it down, it will work. The thing I see is that people what they're not hearing, or what you should hear, is extreme. Do you know what I'm saying? Like extreme consistency, extreme discipline, like do it a lot more than you're comfortable doing it, because you always feel more uncomfortable doing things repetitively or consistently because you think you're bothering, you're doing too much. You're always going to think you're doing more than you actually are compared to what people perceive. So do more than you think. and focus on it and be super, super, super consistent. I used to tell people consistency is more important than intensity. And I think in this kind of a market, you need both. I think you need to be consistent and intense. So that's why you need to work more hours or just be really, really efficient with the hours that you have. So I mean, I've got people that are very, very successful because their social media is blown up, but it takes a while. And I mean, they're more consistent than, they're the top 1% of the people out there doing it. And that's why it works. I mean, and 1% in their market, let's say because they're everywhere you turn, there they are,
Yeah.
it's like, that's what, and the same thing is with your sphere of influence and your friends and family, everywhere they turn, there should you be. I mean, how else, this is kind of what we need. If we need to find more people and the people are harder to find, then we got to be out there in front of more, the people either more often or more of those people. And so I think what I'm finding is those are really good strategies. Now, in some markets, open houses are very, very, very fruitful. It's how I grew my entire business was through open houses. I didn't have a sphere. I was very young. None of my friends and family lived in the area, or if they did, they weren't buying because they were like 22 years old. And so I didn't have money at that age either. So I did open houses and I did a lot of them. I did 4 to 5 to 6 open houses a weekend for a year straight without a break. And people look at me like, what? And I'm like, back to back, hour and a half, give myself a half hour, hour and a half, give myself half an hour, hour and a half. And they're like, the head spin. I mean, it's just a day of work. I mean, there was my 8-hour day and I was sitting in open houses hoping to meet people because if this is a contact sport, right? That was the only way I was going to meet people because again, I didn't have much social media back then. Facebook was just coming out. I'm aging myself. But I mean, like, people just weren't doing that. So like I had to figure out how to do it in markets where there is a migration pattern, people are moving to, or where it's just a good market with quite a bit of inventory and people are still moving there. Open houses are very, very good. But I'm here to tell you, if you're going to do an open house once in a while, I think it's a waste of your time. I mean, you can get lucky like anything, but generally speaking, I think it's a waste of your time. I think you've got to do a lot of them, get really good at them, get your signs out there like crazy, get people driving around that don't even go to your open houses that get used to seeing your signs. See multiple people in different open houses in the course of a 2-week period. I used to have that happen all the time, Josh. People be like, didn't I see you in an open house last weekend? I mean, this is why people wanted to work with me. They're like, holy crap, she's everywhere. And she's obviously busy. None of these, by the way, were my open houses or my listings because I didn't have any listings, but nobody else cares or knows that. What they see is I'm a hard worker. I'm out there. My signs are everywhere. And the more I did, the better I got, the more confident I got, the better my closing was. And it all just spiraled from there. And ultimately, I ended up getting 12 listings in like year 2, all from meeting people in open houses. And so I believe in open houses, but there's some markets that they're not great right now. So you gotta depend. It depends on your market, but we have a lot of people in our current market because we still have a big migration pattern, meeting a lot of people coming into open houses that do not have a real estate agent yet. They're traveling here to check it out. And so if it were me in this market, I'd be doing open houses nonstop. I'd be doing them Thursday afternoons, evenings. I'd be doing them Friday afternoons, evenings, all day, Saturday, Sunday. And I bet you would hit your goals, but you have to commit to it.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So then, one thing that I'm seeing quite frequently, and feel free anything that I say, to disagree with anything that I say, because we
I
all have
probably
different,
won't.
yeah, everybody's got different camps on this, but
Yeah.
like I'm having okay, like people are realizing, hey, I got to do more.
Yeah.
But instead of picking one lane and doing more of that thing, I'm finding that they're choosing 8 things. They're becoming a jack of all trades and master none. They're doing all half-ass. I'm like, no, dude,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, go out there and do 7 open houses a week. Like you will crush it.
That's
But
your
trying to do
thing.
all these different things, they do all half-ass. Are you experiencing that too and seeing that?
Yeah, it's worse than ever because there's just, I mean, you can go on YouTube and you can see 75,000 different ways to sell real estate. By the way, any of them will work if you work them. I mean, that's the problem. This is the problem we have is we have way too much information coming at us. Most of the lead generation activities will work if you work them hard enough. And so then how do you choose? You got to choose. So I like what you say. I mean, I get a little nervous about telling people to only do one thing because, you can kind of get yourself in an egg in one
Yeah.
basket scenario. But I mean, I tell people a 3-legged stool seems the most stable. It's not too much. You're not overwhelmed, but you have to commit to those 3 things and you do not come up with any other ideas. Like
Yeah.
Table them for later. We can talk about them later, but as a coach, I'm not even talking to you about anything else but your first three things. And the reality is, of those three things, one of them should probably be the one that you focus on the most and have some good systems around the other ones. I mean, everybody's going to have their sphere that they should be, tending to some form, shape, or form. Everybody should do some social media. Please do some, because people Google you whether you like it or not. If there's nothing out there about you, it's going to hurt you. And then you should pick a third lane. And whether that's an open house or calling expireds or doing a YouTube channel or whatever it's going to be, you have to go all in and do that. And then make good systems around these, and then really, really have the thing that you're known for, though, or that you really focus on. The book that was written, The One Thing, was written for a reason. There's a lot of truth to that, but you have to make sure that you've got some stability in, your business as well. So you do want to have a few of these different legs out there working on your behalf while you really hyper focus on the things that you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. So then what do you, can't go anywhere without hearing about AI.
Yes.
I mean, are you using it? You leveraging it? What are your thoughts about it?
Oh, I use it for recipes, Josh.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that thing that you can literally like scan your refrigerator and it sees all your ingredients and it like gives you recipes? That's amazing. I'm doing a lot of more cooking than I used to do these days because we're on a really special diet for my son. So it's like, oh, please help me, AI. I joke about that, but I probably use it more personally than I do professionally right now. Here's the thing. What you'll know about me, and it has worked for me, is I am somebody that does naturally stay focused on the one thing. I stay focused on what I'm good at and what works. And I really have done a pretty good job of like putting blinders on and not getting too distracted. That doesn't mean that I don't learn about things and adopt them, but I don't get like super sidetracked and like go all in right away, because what happens to me is if I do that, I lose track of like where my momentum is. And I know that about my personality. So I have to be very cautious. So I tiptoe on those things. I do the trainings. I start dabbling. I have Chat GPT. I've set up my thing in there. I use it for social media posts sometimes. I also use it for like writing my newsletter. I'm using it for those things. My clients, I'm making sure they're using it for, with caution, using it for like listing descriptions or things for their social media videos if they're having a hard time coming up with what to say. I think we can use it to make us more efficient. There's a lot of other cool things coming down the pipeline that I think people could optimize their lead generation. Absolutely. And they should, but just make sure that you don't get down a bunny trail. And then, a month goes by and you're like, oh, but I didn't do any of the other things. And so I have no leads, because that happens far too often. I was on stage with Gary Keller years ago because my very first year as a team leader of a market center, I recruited 101 people. And I didn't know, by the way, that was like not normal. And the reason I didn't is because my business partner, who is the owner of the market center, told me that we were going to recruit 100 people. And if we did that, like we'd be a really solid market center. And I was like, sweet. And I didn't ask any questions. And I took the challenge on. What he didn't tell me is in my entire region, no one had ever recruited more than 36 people in a year. Had he told me that, I probably wouldn't have hit 100, right? But I didn't know what I didn't know. So I had that's a really good tip from a mindset perspective. If you're new to real estate, don't use that as an excuse. I was new to this, had no idea what I was doing. And sometimes not knowing is a really good thing because your mind isn't going to talk you out of it. I didn't know that wasn't something that was possible. Obviously it was possible. Just because somebody else didn't do it in my area didn't mean I couldn't. So we just went to work, figured it out. I tracked my numbers, but I did not open a CRM in my first year. They gave me one for recruiting. I didn't open it. People later found out I didn't. And they were like, what are you talking about? You didn't do this or this. You didn't send a newsletter. You didn't do this. And I'm like, no, I set appointments and I recruited people because I had to recruit 100 and that was a lot of people. And they were like so dumbfounded. And when I went up on stage, this was actually coincidentally around the time that they launched the One Thing book. So they had me on and they said, tell us a little bit about that. And the reality is that for me to set up that CRM and set up the newsletter and do all of that, could it have helped me in the year one? Probably. But for me, I just knew it would have sidetracked me. What I knew I needed to do was set appointments and get people on board, period. If you have a goal, you need to go on appointments. Go, and if somebody else felt they needed a CRM to set the appointments, and they would have done that, but wasn't what was working for me, right? I was setting appointments in other ways, and I couldn't take the time. I didn't want to take the time. I didn't find it advantageous to take the time to do something, to learn something new, set it all up when what I was doing was working, and to not be able to keep that momentum going. Now, year two, I set up my CRM. And I was able to level up and see what worked and what I needed to add. But year one, I learned so much and I hit my goals. And it was because I focused on the one activity that was working for me. And that was it. And I didn't get sidetracked. So I really, really believe in that. And so in coaching, I really try to keep people as focused as possible. But I do love AI. I do love technology. I just don't want it to distract from the goal.
Yeah. And I'm 1000% in alignment with that. It's like we got to be a horse with the blinders on. And I create a lot of content on this podcast, but I'm like, hey guys, like you said, don't go down the rabbit hole with AI. Look, okay, here's my strategies. Is
Yes.
there AI that can allow me to be more effective and efficient with the strategy I'm doing, then plug those in? But so many people see AI and then they think I got to come up with all these new strategies.
And
Yeah,
that's what
right.
happens. Now they have 10 things they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So speaking of Keller Williams, I was shocked when you made the move that you made because I thought you were going to be a lifer there. Right? I mean, you were, running the
Everybody
top
thought that.
expansion team and mega coach and all of this stuff. And what led you to making the move that you made?
Well, this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, literally. I mean, this was the impetus, and it was just timing, right? But I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason. So I came on your podcast. Uh, 3 days later, I got a message from somebody who had just been on your podcast, and then because he was on it, he was like watching your podcast, and then he saw mine, and he's like, "Hey, I want to see if you'll coach my people." So it was a coaching conversation. So we got on a call. Interestingly enough, he's been in the industry as long as me. We weren't friends on Facebook. We didn't know each other. He had never been at Keller Williams. I had never been at Remax. So and he was in other part of the country. We just never crossed paths, despite the fact that I was, friends with thousands and thousands of realtors. We found out we had some mutual connections, but had never known each other. And I was a bit confused, to be honest, because at first I was like, I thought he was an independent broker owner based on all of his marketing. I was a bit confused. And he's like, oh no, I'm at EXP. And at first I was like, oh, not again. Because I knew so many people that had left KW and other places that had been recruiting me for years and years. And to my own demise, I just wasn't open minded. Part of that was, when you get very integrated in a company for a long period of time, it is hard to change. I don't disagree with that. I lived it. I understand it when people are in that space. You get very comfortable, but more than comfortable, you really have just an actual buy in to what you've been doing for so long. And so I just wasn't super open minded, except for it was interesting timing because I was on your podcast really close to my 45th birthday. And I was doing the coaching company. I was still with Keller Williams. I had left the expansion space for a couple different reasons. Quite frankly, the main one was I was just really uninspired about the traditional team model. I just started to feel it was changing. And I wasn't excited to help people in that space anymore. Not that it was right or wrong. I just personally wasn't feeling that energy anymore. And I just didn't think I was going to be a good person in that. So I had a great relationship with that particular owner and partner. And I just said, I don't think I'm your person anymore. And it was fine because the business had kind of started to grow on its own. So he didn't replace my position, but we went into business together to do coaching. And so I was doing coaching, but what I realized, and you and I have had this conversation, running a coaching business is not the same as coaching agents. And I didn't like running the business at all. I wanted to be coaching agents. And so I just knew that I was at a pivotal time in my life and career, both, that I needed to make a change to use the skills that God gave me and all the connections I had in this industry. And I needed to go do it on my own and not with business partners anymore because I've been doing that for 15 years straight. And not that those weren't good, it was just my time. And so I was sitting on my dock on my 45th birthday, and I just very clearly just felt this you're making a change. This isn't it for you anymore. Get out there, do it on your own, figure that out. And then I had just been on your podcast, and then Rich had just reached out. So I took him up on a call because all of a sudden I was open, right? There was just this feeling of openness, and it was the right timing. And the rest is history. I mean, really, for the next 6 months, I spent time learning about it. I completely understood the model. I looked at all the numbers. I basically reverse engineered what I would need to do to replace my income, who I would want to be in business with, how I could use my skills, everything. But there was still a leap of faith that this platform was going to be one that I felt could support me to do that, obviously. And whenever you make a change, you can only get about 98% with your research. There's going to be a little bit left at the end that you have to just take a leap of faith and know that it's probably going to work out. And if it doesn't, guess what? You're going to figure it out anyways, because you've always done it. You've always figured it out. And so that's kind of where I was at. And at the time, my husband had a $70 million team up here in North Idaho with Keller Williams as well. We brought it up to them, and they were all on board, and which was surprising because we thought we might get resistance. And so we were like, you know what, this is probably supposed to happen. If everybody wants to go and everybody's ready for a change, let's do this. And I replaced my income in a year. And my husband's team went from 70 million to over 100 million in a year. They had to completely rebrand their entire name, move offices, change brokerages, change CRM. Their whole database had to be changed because they were coming out of the expansion space. And everybody was like, you're going to crush your business. You're going to kill it. That's what they told my husband. It's going to die and you're going to have to start from scratch. And in the first year, it grew 30%. And so we were like, okay, this is a sign that we made the right choice. I mean, we knew it. We never actually had a moment we were like, oh crap, did we make a mistake? We really, really felt like we made the right decision. Now, we ruffled a lot of feathers. We lost a lot of friends in the business because that's what happens when you make a change. Unfortunately, that's the hard part of change. And I like to bring that up because it's actually real. And people, when you're in brokerages, specifically, if you've been at them for a while, it's like, you kind of feel like you lose like a whole like friend group. And it seems weird as adults to talk about that, but that's a real reality for people that they are very uncomfortable with. It's like, I have to go change everything. And that means my friendships, my relationships, my coaches, my systems, where I work. It's a big deal. But I think that change brings people a lot of energy. And I very rarely see people who make a change as long as they're on board with it. If they're on the fence and they got one foot over each side, the change is never good. But if you in your mind go, okay, I am doing this and I'm going to give it my all, that change brings a whole new level of energy. And for the most part, helps people grow their business. And it did for us.
So I know for me with making this move, because I'm here several years and I'm like 6 months in, and my only regret
Yeah.
is that I didn't do this 10 years earlier.
Oh.
Right. I was just too closed-minded. I just, and I know my reasons for not doing it, but I'm curious, like with your reasons, or like because I mean, you brought in, hundreds and hundreds of agents now. When you get that, like, what do you see as to why like people won't look at the model, they won't be open-minded to it? Like, I mean, and because like you and I both went through it, like we had big
Did.
resistance,
Yeah.
right?
For me, it was the things people said about it. And that's so sad that I believed it. But when people you trust say things, then you just trust that what they're saying is true. Now, that doesn't mean people are lying to you. It might mean that they believe what they're saying, but it doesn't mean it's true. Right. So I think the bad thing is that when you get really comfortable and you're in really good relationships with people, that you will believe what they tell you. And unfortunately, EXP has been and still is being talked about a lot.
Yeah.
But then also there's a reason for that, because if EXP wasn't a threat to anybody, nobody'd talk about them. Right. And so I wish I would have realized that piece sooner. Like, okay, well, why are people so worried about EXP? Like, why are these people talking to me about it so much versus I'm just not even interested because of all the stuff I'm hearing, because I'm not someone that's too scared about what people think about me. I think it was truly like just this like in-depth, like trust of the people telling me what they told me. And then I'm kind of like, if I don't, like, why am I going to waste time researching something if you're telling me all this stuff? Like I'd rather just go spend my time being successful over here. Instead, I wish I would have, been more open to doing my own research. But I also believe in timing, and I wish I would have been here 10 years ago, trust me. And I feel like there's probably a reason I wasn't, because the longer I stayed where I was, I did learn a lot more. We all have seasons of like what we're supposed to learn and who we're supposed to meet. And then when we move someplace else, how we can use that. If I would have moved sooner, maybe I wouldn't have been able to truly take advantage of this model and the company in the way that I have, so I always look at things like that. But when people come to me, it's mostly peer pressure. It's mostly, what are my people in my office going to think? I'm so used to them. They're my friends. I know it sounds stupid, but I'm going to lose my friends. I don't know how I'm going to get connected over here. I only know a couple people over here. And then there's just the fear of change. A lot of people just don't like change. And whether they admit it or not, like they are just resistant. And they'll come up with a whole bunch of reasons why this is going to be hard. And at the bottom of it, none of it's hard. You just have to be willing to change something and you don't want to. And, so I think that's it. I think, yeah, could they have gotten called by too many EXP agents and it ticked them off? Okay. But I mean, I've been a recruiter. So here's what I'd like to say about that. In any other industry, in sports, in college, in all these places, you are so thrilled when somebody wants to recruit you. It's an honor. Like, you know what? I'm not going anywhere, but I am like super excited that you reached out to me. That means a lot. It means I'm doing something over here. People are noticing me. Like it would be a treat for somebody to try to recruit me. I used to be in technical recruiting. I was getting recruited by other companies all the time. That was a good sign. It meant I was good at my job. Now I call somebody who I actually really respect in the industry. I see they're crushing it and I want to talk about them about being in business and they're just like truly offended. It's like, what is happening here? I don't understand this. Like, it's insane to me that you would be offended that somebody wants to be in business together because they think that together you could do something really cool. And that they're doing good things. But I think what has happened is we are in an industry that for many, many, many years, recruiting has really been, it's a peer pressure thing. It's like, we're going to talk bad about our competition. If you get recruited and you get found out, people aren't going to like you. I hate to use the word, but I think our industry is very cultish. I really think it is. Like the longer I've been in it, the more I realize people are really, really brainwashed. And I was too. So I'm not saying, it's very interesting to understand the psychology behind the things that happen in our industry. So I personally think that a lot of people are closed off to EXP Realty because they've been brainwashed. And people don't like me to say that, but I was that person. And so I don't care if they don't like it. I'm not saying that I'm immune to that. I'm telling them that that's what's happening to them because they come over and tell me, well, I mean, it looks like everybody's coming to EXP. It looks great, but like, geez, this is what I hear. And these people won't talk to me more. And just what they do to people when they leave. And it's like, this is literally a cult. Like, why are we afraid to leave a business? Have you ever been afraid to go leave a job to take another job that's going to pay you more money and have a better future for your family? Have you ever been afraid to do that before? No. But you are in a brokerage when you're an independent contractor, there's something off there. And I know this is very controversial, but we have to really stop for a minute and just like get out of like our subconscious because that's our subconscious mind, like talking. Let's just move away from that and the emotion and just think logically for a minute. And a lot of people, when they get there, they're like, oh, yeah, okay, now I get it. So I don't know, at some point you have to make a decision to be looking at your family's future and, and stop, feeding your broker's future because that's what's happening out there. People are not owning their own business. They're renting it. And, that was me. And I just said, I can't do that anymore because I have 4 kids. At some point, I'm not going to want to work forever. And, that there's been things, as you know, that have happened in my family much sooner. But I think that I believe I was given that thought sooner because I didn't know it was going to happen, but it was here, it was there for me. And I took it and I'm glad I did because if I didn't, I'd be in a very, very, very different, not only personal position, but financial position today had I not listened to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I get people that will be like, oh, that have a negative perception about it, because for me, it's like, I don't know if there's any human being out there that's talked more crap about EXP other than me. Like I have,
Like,
but again,
dude.
because I'm originally from Michigan. I was like
I
30 minutes
know.
from Amway headquarters, but I
Yes,
didn't get it. I didn't understand it. So when people are like, oh, yeah, I'm like, yep, I know, I get it. And I want,
I
right.
know.
So,
And
but
then
then
surprise.
now that I'm here, I'm like it is the best vehicle I've ever seen in my lifetime, especially when it comes to real estate. And so, obviously your husband's team has grown.
Yes.
But then, with rev share and it's what I love about EXP because it's like, not only do we have great lucrative splits, we have the top producing agents in the whole entire US, outsell everybody from a production standpoint, but then they allow us, stock and rev share. And, can you share with us a little bit like how that rev share has helped impact your life?
Yeah. So first and foremost, what happened 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago this March, my husband was able to actually sell that real estate team to 2 of his business partners in that team. Um, we're again not getting any younger. My husband's a little bit older than me, and he's been running a team for a long time. And he just felt like his time was up. And honestly, there's a lot of team leaders out there probably watching this, and they're like, "Yeah, I get that." We did not think he would be able to financially do that so quickly. It was 2 years into us being at EXP that the revenue share surpassed what he was making from a team leader perspective, and my income. So now he just sells what he wants to sell. He helps the agents in our downline because he's a great coach. We still support that team. We still help them grow when people are looking for a team, as well as other teams. I still do what I do, and we make far more money. And so why I say that is because the money is important, but what's really important is also that we have some time, because we've been doing this for 25 years, 30 years. This is not like we're just doing this for 5 years. And I'm talking to people maybe that have been in the business for a while, but I think all of us should consider this because anything can happen at any time to any of us. But so we look at this and we're like, we've got a pretty good stock portfolio already. We would not have had that, didn't have that anywhere else we were. We have the revenue share coming in as agent owners. And by the way, we're just doing what we always did. We grew our team. We helped other agents. We brought a lot of people to the other company too, but it's actually like, it's actual income here. It's not just some, a little check here and there. This is like an income that you can actually plan. You can actually goal set around revenue share, which is what I did. But we're being who we've always been. We're just honored here for being that. And that's the difference that I tell people is it's like, we've always done this. We didn't change when we came to EXP. We came here and did the exact same thing that we did somewhere else. And we got paid in 3 ways. And that's it. Nothing else changed. And people are like, that's interesting. And so, my husband is an icon agent. Even just when he sells on his own, he does primarily listings, and we have a good average sell price here. So he icons. So we've gotten our 16,000 back all 4 years. And then we get the gifted stock, and then we have the revenue share, and then his income on, like we're keeping all the income because we're getting the cap back, very, very, very little expenses on the real estate side. And then everything else we make wipes it away. We're paid to be here. We're literally paid to be here. And the thing is, some people get really nervous about the revenue share thing because they think it's another full-time job I have to take on. And that's just not true. If you tap into the people like you and me and the people in our world that also have a lot of great systems and tools and coaching and all of that together, you don't have to do anything. You just have to believe in this company and the people that you're around, and people will ask you about EXP, and then you just leverage the company and the tools and the resources and the people around you. And you as an agent owner are going to build something that over a period of time, and this is not a get rich quick scheme. I don't believe in that. For the majority of people, this is a 5 or 10 year plan, just like anything. And most of you are still going to be in real estate in 5 or 10 years. Like I ask everybody that and they're like, yeah, of course I am. So this is something that you're going to do alongside selling real estate, because you believe in a company and you love the people you're around and you can see the value. And then over time, that relational equity is going to build and you're going to make extra money. And pretty soon you're going to be paying all your bills before you sell a house. And when you do that, your life changes because you no longer are in a scarcity mindset. Where's my next deal? Where's my next deal? And I'll tell you, you'll get more deals when you no longer have to worry about getting deals. Your energy changes and you will find more. The people who actually get revenue share here sell more real estate. It's what happens. It's like it opens a whole nother level of opportunity for you to go out in confidence and to go out without being attached to an outcome. And when you're unattached to an outcome, you almost always get the outcome you want. And so I've watched that with my partners and I help them. I want all of my partners to have revenue share, even if it's just, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month. That is so doable. $5,000 a month. That is so doable. And for most people, it pays their base bills and it changes everything for them. So I like to talk about revenue share like that because most people are like, Cari, I'm not going to be like you. I'm not going to be making all this money in revenue share. I don't want to, and that's fine. But in 10 years, I actually disagree because I think what I did in 3 years, a lot of people could do in 10 if they wanted to. Yeah. I think they could be making $25,000 in 10 years. And I don't know how many investment properties you need to have to make $25,000 a month, but you need a lot of them. And most real estate agents aren't going to build that portfolio. And I don't have to be a landlord and I don't have to babysit because EXP has everything that I need. And so I'm going to pivot to that to say, I wouldn't have said that as confidently even probably 6 months ago. What I mean by that is I'm like you, Josh. I love to be hands-on. I love to coach. I'm very involved with my partners, right? And it's because that's who I am and it's what I do. It's because I love it. It's not because I have to. And so I didn't even fully leverage EXP as much as I could have. And it's simply because I just jumped in and did a lot of the things. But back in January, our son got in a really bad car accident and I didn't work for 4 months straight. I didn't pick up a computer. I didn't look at my email. I didn't have the emotional capacity to do it. I didn't have the time to do it. And nothing happened to my organization except for that it grew. And I had paychecks coming in every single month without having to do a thing. And the people that I surround myself with, people that are not even in my revenue share organization, but people that I've surrounded myself with, that I've trained and coached and came from contribution, and we were in groups, are just coming up with their time, their resources, helping me. So not only does the company honor me and that they will always be there to help my people no matter what, and I still as an agent owner, I'm going to get paid for that. Obviously the people I surrounded myself with made a huge difference. And my husband and I were able to see that firsthand. And so there is a difference in an agent owned company. People really, really do have a little bit of a different incentivization to help each other. That incentivization, some people don't like to hear that because it starts with money. But what I'll tell you is it actually isn't it's not just money. It's like people have seen this happen to me and they're like, wow, I'm so great. I want to take this vehicle and use this in case I need it or somebody else needs it. Like I want to be there for those people. I want to help them grow their revenue share. I want to grow my own. I want us all to help each other because if and when, and it's probably not if, it's when we go through something, and some aren't as extreme as others, but we all are going to go through something, that we have this, that we can, we can lean on and we can unify together. And here's the thing, we're all going to pay a cap or a split to somebody. Why not pay it to a company that's willing to share it with all of us? So when we go through these times, we're even able to help each other more. And it really builds a relationship that I think is different. I think it builds a collaboration that is different. I think it builds a pride in our company that is different. I think it just, people drill it down and they're like, oh, it's just all about money. That is a vehicle. The money is important because quite frankly, I mean, these bills are real that we're facing. And if I'm not working, typically I'm not making money and I've got to pay things. And if I want my son to get better, I can't worry about that. But this has given me an opportunity to not have to worry about that as much. And so, and I'm not the only story I've heard. Before I came to EXP, I heard stories of people saying I got cancer, I had this and this helped me. And I heard those stories and I thought, gosh, that's pretty amazing. I never once thought I'd be in that boat, but I'm so grateful in the last, 3.5 years that I've worked in this company doing what I'm doing because it made the complete difference for our family the last, now 6 months.
Yeah, that's so amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's the only way that I've seen to really have money freedom and time freedom. And look, dude, I jumped into the game at 23 years old, started
Yeah.
making way too much money, way too young of an age. So I didn't respect it. I didn't get it. I
Yeah.
blew through every cent of it. And I don't see this as a bragging thing. It's actually sad to me, right? Like I've closed over 7,000 homes, got all these awards, accolades that are collecting dust in my garage. I can't cash them in. I can't, and then I started looking at this. I'm like, dude, I'm 43 years old. Something happens to me, like my family isn't set up, right? And instead of living
Right.
frugally and buying a bunch of real estate, like I invested a bunch of businesses and I had to learn the hard lesson of kind of suck at all business outside of real estate because every business that I've invested money in that I've tried to build like is all failed. So I've lost is almost as much as I've ever made. I'm like, man, if I don't have a better vehicle, like I'm going to become that person
Mhm.
that's in their 70s and 80s, still running a team, still slaying real estate. And, I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and he said something really interesting to me. He's been in the industry 30 years. And he goes, Josh, he goes, I've never been to a realtor's retirement party, but I've been to a ton of funerals. And I was
So
like,
true.
boom, that was hit home,
I've never been to a retirement party either. I mean, it's sad. No, who does that? Nobody retires. And it's like it's a badge of honor in our industry. Well, I'm not going to retire. I don't have to retire. I love selling real estate. Sure, it's okay if you love doing something, but when you have to do it when you're 70 or 80, that's not cool. And bottom line is, we might at 45 not be able to do it, right? To your point, or 50, we might have to take a hiatus. We don't know what will happen. And the bottom line is, I think we all got into entrepreneurship because we wanted the freedom, and it's a thing we never get in real estate. I mean, we all know that we get money, but we don't get freedom. And we spend a lot of money because even if we're not spending it frivolously, we're trying to invest it in different things to grow so that we can find that freedom, but it never works out that way, because even running a real estate team is not freedom. And that's, my husband found that out. It's like, that isn't true freedom. Revenue share is true freedom. I'll just tell you it is. And this isn't taking advantage of your friends. I mean, I hear all the things. I don't want to take money from my friends. I don't want to make money from my friends. That just seems weird. Bottom line is, people are going to make money on your transactions, period. Somebody is. I personally would rather my friends make the money than somebody that that I don't know or like. But at the bottom line is, it's not coming from your family to feed theirs. But real estate teams, that's what it is, right? I'm giving you a lot, but I'm taking half of your income. And, so it gets to be this weird energy of money. There is no weird energy of money in revenue share, because that money is already agreed upon to go to EXP, and EXP provides so much for $16,000. It's insane. Yeah. And then on top of that, they're just giving us some of theirs, not some of the other agents. Nobody loses here. There's no weird structure. And that is a question I get all the time, Josh, because people do not get it. They're like, am I joining your team? And am I paying you? And okay, you're getting paid on revenue share. You're making money from me. And it's immediately like, it must be coming from me. And it's like, because we're still all kind of thinking of it like a team, I think that's a really hard thing to people to get over. It's not. It's just, it's an agent ownership method for us to be honored to help each other. And by the way, in brokerages, who helps each other? It's the agents helping each other. It's the ones that are sitting around, sharing offices, helping each other, collaborating when they're on vacation, doing open houses. We already are those people. We already help each other. So why aren't we being honored by the company to help each other? Because when we do that, we can build a stronger, more cohesive, more collaborative group of people. I mean, I'm in a very traditional market up here in North Idaho. It's a very much a good old boys club. EXP people get looked at. Like literally, it's like when we came to EXP, people didn't even know what to do. They were like, what even is that company? You guys are nuts. You've completely lost your mind. Nobody's going to go for it. What's a virtual brokerage? We have brick and mortar offices everywhere, right? And we're like, well, you either get on with the way of the future or you don't. We're going for it. And bottom line is, 3.5 years in, we are number 2 in our market in closed transactions year to date. In our sister market, we're number 1. We're one of the youngest companies. There's a couple of ones that are coming up behind us now, like Epic and Real and things like that. But we are by far the youngest of all of our competitors. And we're in the top 3 in all categories, moving up to top 2 in closed transactions. And I think we're going to hit maybe potentially top number 1 in Coeur d'Alene. And people are blown away. Like, what is going on? What is going on is that we actually all have ownership in a company we're proud of, and we help each other. We really, really help each other. And we go on listing appointments. My husband has gone on 4 listing appointments with people that he could have been in competition with. And instead, they partnered together in it because they happen to be in our downline. And so we don't even take a commission. But here's the bottom line: that doesn't work in a different model. So when you're in small traditional markets, I'm just like, people are just using all of these excuses. This is the best model I've ever seen. And I think that people they just don't get it. And it's because they just haven't opened their heart and mind to it yet.
Yep. Yeah. And the vast majority of the times when I'm talking with agents is they also save a ton of money being here. Like I just brought in a luxury agent the other day that we did the math on her. Like, okay, if your business doesn't go up, now her current brokerage, like no training, no support, no systems. But like if your business doesn't go up, which I'm confident will, because EXP's all their amazing tools, training systems, plus you're gonna get full access to me and all my coaching. And but I'm like, even if it doesn't go up, you're gonna save 80 grand a year. So I'm like, in most cases, you save a bunch of money, plus you're getting stock, plus rev share if you want to take advantage of that, plus superior training systems. And then so on that, one of the things I love about EXP is it allows us, because now we have a vested interest. Like I tell everybody I talk to, I'm like, hey, if you're not making money, I'm not making money. Yeah, right. So then I'm able to, I have a huge vested interest in coach them and pour into them and make sure that they're succeeding. Now with co-sponsorship, and I know you and I are going to blow this up together. We already have some, they're working together on this. Of now, even though we're in different uplines, like we're able to come together, co-sponsor. Like I know we just, signed up a gentleman we are talking about right before this, where, they get full access to my coaching, full access to your coaching, plus all the amazing things EXP provides, which is just another massive game changer.
It's just like, I don't even know who can compete against this. With co-sponsorship, it is literally going to blow EXP up. I mean, it is. There's just absolutely no one that should feel like they can't get what they need. And so that is a message to people, be educated. If you are looking at EXP, find the people or the person and really be honest about, okay, here's what I need to succeed. Here's what I want. And you can find people in your geographical location that are great coaches that don't live near you, mentors. I mean, there's all the things that we can work together on now where somebody shouldn't have to make a choice over, one over the other, not sure if they're making the right decision. Like I had that a lot happen, Josh, and you as a national coach will too, which is like, I really want to work with you, Josh, but I really want to find someone local to me because I feel like I need to be connected. And they had to make a decision before, and that was really tough. A lot of people did make the decision to work with me, even though I wasn't local to them. But it was a hard decision. And then I had worked really hard to get them connected. But now we don't even have to worry about that. Perfect. Let's find you somebody local and let's work together and let's literally go out there and crush this. So I'm very excited for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if for anybody that's watching, listening, so below I'm going to have my link where you can schedule a call with me if you want to learn more about what a partnership could look like at EXP. And then, just make sure that because again, like if this is something that you want to move forward with, you can get me, all my coaching, all my support, as well as Cari's. And then I'm also going to have Cari's link below where you can get in touch with her, have a conversation with her as well. So anywhere you're watching or listening, there's going to be that below. So okay, I do want to talk about recruiting a little bit. I know we're going long on time, so just a couple last questions for you. But for those that and look, maybe they're not with EXP, maybe they're with one of the kind of the copycat models or just team brokerage, but like what are you finding that works best for you? Because you've been able to grow to, what'd you say, 340 now, 350 agents?
Yeah. So it's like 100, it's a little over 100 a year. And Josh, I still don't have a CRM.
Yeah.
You and I are the perfect tag team for people because I am, like you said, one on one. Like I've coached more people one on one and have done, things with people to where I've gotten into such close relationships with them and how I've been able to help them to then succeed through them. That's just who I am, and it has worked really, really well for me. And because we have high performers and we have high retention, financially it works for me too, so there's a couple of ways to recruit, there's ways to build in this model, and there's no right or wrong. I think people have to know who they are and they have to go for who they are. If I would have got sideswiped into trying to build something like you, I think I'd be very unsuccessful right now. Not because what you do doesn't work. I think I wouldn't have done it well and it wouldn't have been authentic to me, right? So when I talk to people about recruiting, you have to know yourself first and foremost, and you've got to do it in a way that you are excited to do it and that you'll do it consistently and that works for you. I do it through relationships. I do it through coaching. I do it through bringing value to people, connecting people, making their life better. And then they trust me, they like me, and they want to work with me. And I find ways that we can work together where it's just an awesome win-win. And why would they want to do something different? The second thing is I know everything that I need to know about EXP Realty. So whether you're at EXP, whether you're at another company, whether you own your own brokerage, you have to be the one that's the most educated on it, in my opinion, because you have to be able, just like in a listing appointment or in anything else that you do in business, you've got to figure out what people need. We don't all need the same things from EXP. There's some people that will never open up something in EXP that I use every single day, and we'll both have a really, really great experience here. And it's because we're different people and we run our businesses differently. So for me, it's really meeting people where they're at. It's finding out what's important to them. And then it's making sure that they fully understand what's important to them. And that's going to be what makes them successful in EXP. And so I think that's just the recipe for recruiting in general. No matter how you get a hold of your people, doesn't matter how you find people, whether it's through a large coaching program and a CRM and drip campaigns, or it's reaching out to people on social media one-on-one like me, or, my free coaching that I give, that I meet people in, or my podcasts or webinars that I do. That's how I meet people. I do get a lot from my social media because I'm very vulnerable, both personally and professionally, and have been my entire time I've been on Facebook. I never have worried about people think. I just am me. And I think that when you're you, people can find you. People that know you and like you and trust you know that they know you and like you and trust you, and they find you. When you're trying to be all things to everybody, I think it's hard for you to be found by anybody. And so I mean, I guess that's the same for selling real estate too, right?
Yep. 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 Powerful stuff. Okay. So last question for you. You've had all this growth, all this success over the last, well, your whole career, but just speaking the last few
4
years
years.
here,
Yeah.
like where do you see yourself like in the next 5 or 10
Mm.
years?
Yeah. That's a loaded question now because I don't know a lot of my future and my family and things of that nature. But it's interesting because actually, Josh, I had the conversation with the gentleman that you and I are going to be co-sponsoring yesterday. And I kind of had an epiphany in the middle of the Zoom call, to be honest with you. So it's interesting and it's not interesting that we just got in contact. This all comes full circle. You're the reason I actually am at EXP, kind of, uh, in a funny way. Then you come, then we meet, and then we already have somebody co-sponsor, and then I have a call with him. And for a while, I've been a little uncertain about that, and I just like something clicked in that Zoom call. So it's very, very interesting. And what clicked was really that this experience, like if I look at my whole career in coaching and how I've coached people and what my method of coaching was, and all of it was like based on my own personal experiences, with just my own personal transformation and mental health journeys and things of that nature that kind of led, and then being an entrepreneur young and all the ups and downs, I've always sourced my like how I can help people from my personal experiences. But I also always make sure that I'm doing the things I need to do to get myself in on the right track and to prove that success. And then I can use that with other people, and I can do it not just theoretically, but because it's like what I've done. And it's always what works for me. And so all of a sudden I'm talking to this gentleman and kind of what he needs. And I'm like, okay, all right, I think I know what I'm. So it's like what I've been through in the last 5 months with my son and what I've had to do in terms of research and like just everything I've learned and what we're doing as a family to help our son is not is very synergistic with entrepreneurs, like the entrepreneurship journey, and is even next level kind of on the mindset, which we all know is the key to success. If you read successful people, I mean, if you don't have that, you don't have anything. And so it's the resiliency of the brain. And it's like taking this whole idea of retraining your brain to a whole nother level. And so it's like, okay, I think, my path has always been, I have all these connections and all of my personal journeys are leading for me to be able to benefit people. I already have the best of the best of the best, in my opinion, in real estate training, production coaching, all the things people can tap into. And I think that I'm going to continue to even take this next level of my own coaching to people that need it in like this way. And I think a lot of people need it. I think there's other things I'm going to do probably in the brain trauma thing, realm, just on a side note, and that'll be outside of real estate. And I think that, my connections and quite frankly, the vehicle of revenue share will help me help more people because this is an interesting injury where much of the help that you get is not covered by insurance, which is why most people don't get the help. And so, I want to be able to pay that forward. And so the more money I can make, the more people I can help. And I think that part of that is like a purpose for myself and our son and things like that. And so, you tie in like being at the right company and a place where you really, really can make the money that you're supposed to make. Like this is a whole nother thing, but says promises abundance to all of us. Like there's no shame in making as much money as you can possibly make. If you're given talents and given opportunities, you should run and take them as fast and furious as you possibly can. You're given those talents and those opportunities for a reason. Now, what you do with the money is your choice. And I didn't always use my money correctly either. I spent most of my money my first 10 years in real estate before I even made it. Because I was super unhappy, but and I thought material things were going to fix it. But at the end of the day, I learned through those things. And then I learned things that I can help other people with because I'm not alone in that. Obviously you weren't either, right? Like we were both 23 when we started and had the same problem. We're not the only two, people are going, me too, that are listening to the podcast right now. And there's all these different journeys we get put on. And I think that we should be looking for how can we make more money? How can we help more people? How can we use our strengths and talents to the utmost? Because that's what we're put on the earth for. Like there's a purpose for us. So let's use it. And so I think my purpose is going to continue to be in real estate coaching. I think it's going to take my, the mindset piece of this and potentially, just even strategies that I've learned to make our lives better. And I think I want to help more people build revenue share. And, people don't get that. And I'm like, no, because I've now been through a situation where this has changed. This has been life changing for me to have it. So now I want people to hear that they need to stop poo-pooing it and realize that they have just as much right to have some of that money as anybody else does. And they have the same opportunity that everybody else does. And this is an awesome company to build with, and that it could change your life too. And if you don't need it, then give it to somebody who can use it. I mean, like, don't just turn money away because you just think it's weird. I did that for far too long, and I think that that's just a bad idea.
Yep. Yep. Love it. Such powerful stuff. And again, anybody that's watching, listen, below is going to be, my link as well as Cari's contact information, her link. If you want to jump on a call, learn more about a partnership and what co-sponsoring can look like with both of us. We'd love to have that conversation with you. And Cari, truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be here. This has been absolutely awesome, my friend.
Yes, awesome. Great being in business with you. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, 100%. All right, guys, we will see you next time.